get ready for a mind-blowing journey into the world's most hazardous hotspots. Radioactive decay is a slow-motion fire that unleashes hidden danger, emitting radiation, invisible and silent as a ghost. From catastrophic accidents to mysterious contamination, Earth has its fair share of radiantly ravaged areas. And guess what? We're not just talking about post-apocalyptic movies. There are 15 real-life locations where radiation reigns supreme. You might be surprised that Aberdeenshire in Scotland is one such place. This picturesque town was recently rocked by a shocking discovery. Over 800 homes tested higher than normal radon levels, prompting an emergency response with 2,000 radiation testing kits being sent to its residents. You've heard about radon, but do you know it's actually a silent killer? This natural radioactive gas sneaks out from tiny bits of uranium hiding in everyday rocks and soil. Talk about an unwanted house guest. High levels of radon can be deadly, claiming over 1,000 lives in Britain each year. It works by creating toxic dust that makes its way into our lungs, setting the stage for serious health consequences if left unchecked. Now, let's travel to Ramsar, a coastal city near the Caspian Sea in Iran. You wouldn't guess it, but Ramsar packs a radioactive punch without any nuclear secrets or uranium mines. What's really going on here? Ramsar's radium problem seems to stem from its mineral-rich waters and sizzling hot springs. Sounds like a relaxing getaway, right? Unfortunately, this natural spa scene comes with a side of radium-226, which is seeping into the water and affecting everyone who soaks in it. While locals and visitors might not be at immediate risk of cancer, they're still getting a daily dose of background radiation. That's why Ramsar residents need some extra protection to counteract this steady exposure. Talk about a constant low-level buzz in the background. As a result, Ramsar earns its spot as one of the world's most radioactive hotspots, making it a unique yet fascinating case study for us. Let's dive into one of the most shocking entries on our list, the Polygon in Kazakhstan. This hidden gem flew under the radar, literally, as it happened during the Cold War era when many of us weren't even born yet, between 1949 and 1989. A staggering 450 nuclear tests took place at this site, but the real victims were the residents of nearby towns who unknowingly got caught in the crossfire. The Soviet Union kept the full extent of their radiation exposure hush-hush. Can you believe it? It's a mind-boggling piece of history that still raises eyebrows today. Fast forward to post-1991, when the Polygon's dark secret finally came to light. Today, it's a leading research site, with scientists digging deep into its atomic history. Now, let's head across the globe to the United States and explore another Cold War hub, the Hanford site in Washington State. This massive facility was the U.S. top-secret plutonium factory, churning out the materials for their arsenal of nuclear superstars that luckily never got to shine on the battlefield. It was a high-stakes game between the Soviets and the Americans, with both sides racing to create the biggest and baddest nukes in town, an unsettling reminder of our complex history. For nearly 5 decades, the Hanford site in Washington state served as a nuclear powerhouse, producing massive amounts of plutonium for a whopping 60,000 potential nukes, including the infamous Fat Man bomb that changed history over Nagasaki in '45. But as we're now discovering, this nuclear gold rush came with a hefty price tag. The site is currently decommissioned, yet it's still holding onto a staggering 60% of its high-level radioactive waste by volume, all under the careful watch of the U.S. Department of Energy. And let's be clear, this isn't something you can simply toss in the trash and call it a day. We're talking about radioactive waste that demands serious attention and responsible handling. Let's take a look at another site with a complex past, the Siberian Chemical Combine in Russia's city of Seversk. This facility played a significant role in the Soviet nuclear weapons program, churning out weapons-grade nuclear materials. You might recall we've touched on this era before. It was a nerve-wracking time when the world teetered on the brink of disaster. However, with the Soviet Union's collapse in 1991, production at the Siberian Chemical Combine came to an abrupt halt for plutonium and highly enriched uranium. But guess what? The site didn't just get shut down entirely. Fast forward to the present day at the Siberian Chemical Combine in Russia, a facility that's still dealing with the remnants of its past life as part of the Soviet nuclear weapons program. While production of nuclear materials for weapons has stopped, this site is now a major storage hub for these dangerous goods. But here's a silver lining. They're also using it to supply low-enriched uranium for both domestic and international energy needs. And if that wasn't enough, the Combine also holds an astonishing amount of low and intermediate-level nuclear waste, over 1,500 feet beneath the surface, no less. This is definitely not a destination you'd want on your bucket list. Let's shift gears and dive into the Zapony mining and chemical combine in Mali-Su, Kazakhstan, a place with a surprising twist. Unlike what we've seen so far, this wasn't a nuclear testing site, production powerhouse, or energy plant. The reason it stands out: this region is actually brimming with uranium, making it an attractive spot for mining. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union tapped into this natural resource, establishing the Zapony Combine as a massive mining operation to extract tons of uranium ore destined for weapon production facilities. While some contaminated waste was buried underground, there's concern that much of it was simply left exposed, posing a major risk. Radiation lingering in the air, ready to contaminate anything that dares to get too close. But here's where things take a concerning turn. The area surrounding Zapony is also prone to earthquakes, which means buried contaminants won't stay hidden for long. They'll seep into nearby rivers, supplying water for hundreds of thousands of people in the region. It's like having a ticking radioactive time bomb that we desperately hope never explodes. Now, let's move on to our next entry, the Somali coast. This one's got all the makings of an action-packed thriller, but trust us, it's no fiction. In fact, experts consider it one of the most radiation-soaked hotspots on our planet. There's been chatter that Italian organized crime rings secretly used the Somali coastline for dumping toxic waste, including nuclear leftovers, with reckless abandon and zero protection. Now, let's get into a jaw-dropping plot twist allegedly. Over 600 barrels of nuclear waste are dumped along this coastline, and we're not done yet. It's said that some of these barrels contained radioactive materials from local hospitals. Sounds like the script for a Hollywood blockbuster, but sadly, this is real life. The area is primed for a catastrophic disaster waiting to happen, with little hope that anything will be done to prevent it. But here's another mind-blowing piece of information. According to the United Nations Environment Program, these toxic barrels probably washed up after the 2004 tsunami, and from the looks of the rust, they've been sitting there for at least 3 decades. Let's dive into a gripping tale of how the Goyano Institute of Radiotherapy in Brazil became a radiation hotspot. And it all began with a bungled robbery back in 1987. In their quest for valuable scrap metal, thieves targeted an abandoned medical clinic, making off with a teletherapy unit. Unbeknownst to them, this high-tech equipment contained cesium-137, a super radioactive isotope that's as hazardous as it sounds. For our non-scientific viewers, don't worry about the details. Just remember that cesium-137 needs to be locked away safely within a lead capsule to prevent any major disasters. Fast forward to a shocking turn of events at the Goyano Institute of Radiotherapy in Brazil, a botched heist that would leave a trail of radioactive destruction. The thieves' reckless move prying open the teletherapy unit and its lead capsule, releasing a toxic cloud of cesium-137 into the environment. This fateful decision claimed 4 lives and exposed over 250 people to alarming levels of radiation. In response, authorities had to mobilize a massive cleanup operation, scooping up contaminated topsoil and demolishing homes that were forever tainted by radioactive residue. The International Atomic Energy Agency would label this incident one of the world's most severe radiological disasters, a grim reminder that thoughtless actions can have devastatingly long-lasting consequences. Let's take a closer look at Sellafield. No, wait. I mean Sellafield. Just kidding, folks. There's no such place as Sellafield, but you're probably thinking of Sellafield in the OK. This infamous site was once home to Britain's nuclear weapons program during the Cold War era. Today, it's being repurposed as a facility for nuclear fuel reprocessing and decommissioning. But what's really got people talking is its location. Just a stone's throw from the charming coastal village of Seascale on Ireland's sea coast. Now, back in the day, Sellafield was pioneering work, becoming one of the world's first commercial nuclear power stations to also generate electricity. However, all good things must come to an end, and this part of the facility is now being dismantled. While it may have had a positive impact during its heyday, a major concern remains. Sellafield releases an astonishing 2.3 million gallons of contaminated waste into the Irish Sea every single day. That's not something you want to see happening in our oceans. Let's dive into some serious environmental concerns. Folks, the Irish Sea has unfortunately earned its spot as one of the most radioactive bodies of water on our planet, with Sellafield releasing massive amounts of contaminated waste daily. It's hard to imagine the damage it's causing beneath the surface. And we're not just talking about a few struggling fish here. Now, let's head over to Russia, where they also have their fair share of heavily radioactive areas. Mayak is one such industrial complex that was once at the forefront of nuclear production, churning out plutonium and reprocessed nuclear fuel like crazy. But what really sets it apart is its dark past. You see, Mayak is actually the site of the infamous Kyshtym incident, ranked as a level 6 disaster on the International Nuclear Event Scale, making it the 3rd worst nuclear accident in history. Get ready for some shocking secrets and environmental nightmares. Back in 1957, Mayak's complex was rocked by a devastating explosion that released an astonishing 80 tons of radioactive waste into the air, affecting over 20,000 square miles. But here's the kicker: the Soviet government kept this catastrophic event under wraps until decades later. Meanwhile, they were quietly dumping waste into nearby Lake Karchy, without a care for the people relying on it as their main water source. Fast forward to today, and thousands are unknowingly sipping contaminated water, all thanks to a massive cover-up. The Soviet Union's obsession with secrecy sure came at a steep price, folks. Now, let's switch gears to another environmental hot spot, Maguire Air Force Base in New Jersey, where the Beaumark Site Row 01 is being held behind high fences, officially labeled as one of the most contaminated sites in the entire country by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. Buckle up for a jaw-dropping tale of radioactive disaster. In June 1960, catastrophe struck at Maguire Air Force Base when a missile packed with a nuclear warhead caught fire and was destroyed on site. The blaze unleashed radioactive plutonium into the environment, but that wasn't the worst part. The intense heat from the inferno spread contaminants across an entire 7-acre area. Despite a hasty cleanup campaign, the damage was done. This site remains contaminated to this day, 60 years later. It's mind-boggling to think about how our obsession with nuclear warfare has led to devastating consequences for ourselves and our planet. So here's your warning. Steer clear of this toxic hot zone. It's not a place you want to visit. Get ready for one of the most shocking environmental disasters you've ever heard. In 1979, a catastrophic spill rocked Church Rock's uranium mill in New Mexico, unleashing a toxic tidal wave of radioactive waste and acidic materials into the nearby Puerto Rico River. The devastating impact rippled an astonishing 80 miles downstream, contaminating areas all the way to Navajo County in Arizona. This wasn't just a local issue. The radioactive fallout had far-reaching consequences, proving that nuclear pollution knows no borders. Let this serve as a sobering reminder, even when it comes to seemingly contained dangers like uranium waste. Mother Nature's reach is much longer than we'd like to think. But did you know about the dark side of French history? Let's dive into another environmental disaster that shook a community to its core. In 1951, a devastating accident occurred at Fort d'Aubervilliers, a site where uranium ore was being processed. Radioactive materials leaked into the soil and nearby Seine River, affecting thousands of people living in the area. Residents suffered from severe health issues, including radiation poisoning and even birth defects. The crisis wasn't just limited to humans. Local animals also fell victim to the toxic contamination. What's more astonishing is that it took over 5 decades for the truth about this tragic event to come to light, a stark reminder of the long-lasting impact of environmental disasters. Get ready for a shocking tale of radioactive secrets and devastating consequences. In Paris, Fort d'Aubervilliers, you wouldn't expect to find a dark chapter in its history. But here's the truth: Irene Joliot Curie, Marie Curie's daughter, conducted experiments with highly toxic radium-226 in the 1920s and 30s. Later, the French army joined forces using the fort for nuclear testing in Algeria. The outcome? A complete contamination of the site. Decontamination efforts didn't start until the 1990s, leaving behind a trail of hazardous leftovers. 61 barrels of radioactive cesium-137, 160,000 gallons of polluted soil, and remnants of Marie Curie's radium-226. To make matters worse, residents nearby started developing cancer at alarming rates, proof that the fort's toxic legacy was far from over. Buckle up for one of history's most catastrophic nuclear accidents, Chernobyl. In April 1986, a safety test at this Ukrainian power plant took an eerie twist. It became the real-deal disaster they were trying to simulate. The experiment, meant to keep the lights on during a blackout, led to a devastating steam explosion and a monstrous open-air graphite fire instead. Toxic chemical flames spewed radioactive smoke into the air, unleashing a toxic fallout that blanketed the Soviet Union and parts of Europe. A haunting reminder of the horrific consequences of human error. Let's dive into the aftermath of Chernobyl. 5 million Soviet citizens were left breathing radioactive air, and many paid the price with alarming rates of cancer and other diseases. The brave souls tasked with containing the disaster suffered the most, facing unimaginable risks as they worked on the highly irradiated site. Today, Chernobyl remains one of the planet's most contaminated hotspots. A haunting testament to the tragedy. You'd think it'd be off limits, but thrill seekers still flock there. And trust us, if you bring a Geiger counter along for the ride, it'll become your new best worst friend. Now, let's shift gears and explore our next nuclear disaster, Fukushima Daiichi power plant. You've probably seen it all over the headlines. Japan got hit with a massive 9.1 magnitude earthquake in 2011, followed by an equally devastating tsunami. The Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant was initially shaken but still standing after the quake. Unfortunately, the tsunami took it down for good. Those powerful waves were twice as strong as what the plant could withstand, and they knocked out the seawater pumps that kept the nuclear reactors cool. When you lose cooling power in a nuclear plant, you've got a recipe for disaster. And that's exactly what happened next. The disaster unfolded rapidly after the tsunami hit. 3 reactors started leaking radiation, spewing out toxic materials into the air and water. The contaminated wastewater flooded nearby areas before pouring into the Pacific Ocean. Causing irreparable damage, the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant was shut down for good, but the environmental harm lingered on. Today, it's one of the most hazardous